Well, you never really knew what you wanted to do. You just kind of fell into it, and as the years progressed, all of a sudden, next thing you know, I find I'm a professional bike racer. Back in the day, of course, now you have to be with a professional UCI licensed team, but back in the day, anybody can turn pro. A bum on the street, got an extra $150, sends it to the US Pro Cycling Federation, which was different than the USA Cycling. So at that time, it was simple to turn pro. Nobody had any faith in me. I just bought my own license for 150 bucks, hopped on a plane, showed up at Thrift Drug in Pennsylvania, and did my first professional bike race. So it's come a long ways. I've seen the sport change a lot from the time when it was US Pro to now when it's just USA Cycling, and it has an amateur division and professional division, but it's all one unit attached to the UCI, of course. So the sport has changed a lot from what I've seen. And you got to remember, when I first came to racing, there was no computer like what's sitting in your lap. There was no iPod. There was no we raced without helmets. So it's been quite a change. And this year I think I'm professional for 18 seasons, and of course was amateur a few years before that. So I got a solid 20 plus years under the belt. My style's been the same, I think, from the start of my career. Just really aggressive. I love doing the one-day races. I like doing the classics. I like doing the stage races, the 6-day stage races, the 10-day stage races, the 21-day stage races. I love just being on the bike and doing a little bit of everything. Certainly I'm not a sprinter, but in the early days I used to sprint too. When we were doing the criteriums, you had to sprint. When you grew up racing in the States, you make your money from the criterium, so you had to be a sprinter. Maybe you didn't want to be, but you still had to be. If you were going to make a paycheck and pay for gas on the way home, you had to learn how to sprint. Well, the Tour de France is the most obvious. It's #1 on the list. It's always the hardest. There's always a day or two where you're having an extremely bad moment and you need to get through it to finish. I remember doing the Tour, I think it was 96, I'm sorry, not 96, in 2006, sorry, we're a couple decades apart, but in 2006 I remember doing the Tour when I was really sick, and I was sick for 4 days. And the first day I was sick, we were going over 6 mountain passes. I got dropped before McEwen, and we were teammates with Lotto, and I got dropped before the Gruppetto had formed, even before McEwen got dropped. And so I fought as hard as I could to get up to McEwen's group, and that stage we went over 6 mountain passes. I lost 12 kilos by the end of the stage, and I could see every bone in my foot when I took my shoes off. And when we drove back to the hotel where we were staying, every bone in my body and every muscle in my body was busted and worn out and cramping. Well, a lot of people think last year in the Tour de France when I crashed out and got the concussion was the scariest, but honestly, I don't remember any of it. So that one wasn't too scary for me. Of course, I don't want to relive what happened afterwards, but it seemed like one of the easier crashes for me. The next morning when the light bulb turned on, I'm sitting in the hospital and trying to figure out what went wrong from the day before. I look around, I wasn't really suffering. I didn't have a lot of road rash. It didn't seem like I was that beat up. And of course later, as the month wore out, came through to an end and stuff, I had 2 more trips to the hospital. One for, of course, the leg problem I was having, and one for the blood clot I got. So that has to be up there as one of the most traumatic crashes I've had. But 2-3 years before that, all season long I was crashing, where I crashed at Tour of California and had some deep knee bruising. Crashed at the Basque Country with 2 broken ribs, 1 broken collarbone. Crashed at the Giro d'Italia with a broken leg. Crashed at the Tour of Spain with a broken pelvis and 2 broken bones in my hands. So crashing's part of the sport. Everybody's always, Chris, are you worried? You're getting 40 years old. Are you stressing on it? I'm not stressing on it. It comes with a job, it's the territory. I would prefer it next time not to come during the Tour de France, but if it does, I can still accept it. Outside of the Tour de France, it's obvious for me, I want to do the Basque Country again. I want to do a strong performance in the Basque Country. I love that race. I think it's the strongest field of stage race riders outside of the Tour de France. I don't think there's anything that compares to what the Basque Country has outside of the Tour de France. Not Swiss, not Dauphiné, not Tour of Spain, not Tour of Italy. Those are all great fields, but in terms of GC guys, the best, Tour de France, Basque Country. And after the Basque Country, I want to perform and I want to win again at California.